All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the AGB Summit under the theme How to Act for a Smart, Healthy, and Resilient Community. And taking the helm as the summit chair is Kim In-mi, president of Ewha Women's University. She and also our panelists are already on the stage, it looks like. So let's welcome them with a big round of applause. We're still waiting for one panel member to arrive, so please bear with us with just a moment until we can kick off.
끝나는 시간이 어떻게 돼요? 끝나는 시간이 어떻게 돼요?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our panelists again with a huge round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, participants. Welcome to the first World Health City Forum, the AGB Summit. My name is In-mi Kim. I'm the president of Ewha Women's University. It is a great honor to chair the academy, government, business, in short, the AGB Summit at the first World Health City Forum. The summit brings together scholars and experts from academia, representatives from both the central and urban government, and leaders and institutions from business to discuss the challenges of our era that have multifaceted and compounded crises of great magnitude that the world has not experienced before at such a global scale, and to reaffirm our commitment for action. Hence, the theme of our session is how to act for a smart, healthy, and resilient community, that is the city. We live in an era of compounded challenges and uncertainties, with foremost among them the pandemic and climate change. The COVID-19 pandemic that began in December 2019 has persisted and transformed into a so-called multi-demic, resulting in a death toll of 7 million and still counting. Climate change, once considered as a distant threat, is now threatening every part of the globe, causing not only natural disasters but also social risks. The magnitude as well as the compounded nature of the multiple challenges are at the root of the problem that we face today. Today's AGB Summit was designed to bring experts to find ways to collaborate across academia, business, and government, since the challenges we face are compounded, multifaceted, and immense in size. We must work together to find integrated solutions, and we must work across boundaries for real cooperative action to implement these solutions that we find. Let me introduce our distinguished panelists. President Jeffrey Rifkin of the Foundation on Economic Trends, who just gave an excellent keynote speech, is joining us real-time from Washington, D.C. Two of South Korea's leading corporations has joined the panel, and they represent the energy, health, and housing services and work for the well-being and safety of the people and communities. Senior Manager and Integration Officer of Smart City Innovation Group, Jack Jung of the Hyundai Motor Group, and Vice President Silas Choi of LG Electronics have joined us representing the business community. Commissioner Jin Yong Kim of the Incheon Economic Agency is representing the government. Before we start the summit, I would like to invite the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, starting from my left, Senior Manager Jack Jung. Mr. Jung.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, distinguished guests and participants. Very nice to meet you. I am Jack Jung, Integration Officer and Senior Manager at Smart City Innovation Group at Hyundai Motor Group. Smart City Innovation Group makes efforts in establishing an overall strategic roadmap for implementing and realizing Hyundai Motor Group's smart city visions. We also work closely with governments, both Korean, domestic, or of course international, and our partners overseas, as well as startups, non-governmental organizations, in purpose of deploying and again implementing Hyundai Motor Group's future solutions, especially in the fields of mobility, including transportation and logistics, as well as energy. Again, thank you very much for having Hyundai Motor Group to learn a lot from the forum and to briefly share our visions and thoughts of a healthier and a smarter city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice President Silas Choi. Could-
Good morning. My name is Silas Choi, working in LG Electronics. I am in charge of solution business such as smart home, smart hospital, and network communication solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner Jin-Yong Kim. Jin-Yong Kim.
예, 인천 경제자유구역청장 김진용입니다. 이제 경제자유구역청은 오늘 주제와 관련해서는 우리가 글로벌 바이오 클러스터를 만들어 왔고 또 스마트 시티를 세계에서 이러한 대규모 형태로 만든 건 세계 최초로 알려져 있습니다. 이런 스마트 시티를 만들어 왔고 그다음에 GCF를 비롯한 국제 기구를 15개를 우리 경제 자유구역에 위치시킴으로 인해서 우리가 이제 앞으로 세계적인 그 글로벌 이슈들을 설정을 하고 또 메시지를 전파를 하고 이런 문제들을 함께 풀어가는데 큰 역할을 할 수 있는 그러한 공간이 되었다는 것을 좀 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. 이러한 것을 관리하고 있는 경제 자유구역 청장으로 일을 하고 있습니다.
감사합니다. Now, Dr. President of the Foundation on Economic Trends, Dr. Jeremy Rifkin, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't know. Are there any words to introduce yourself properly?
I'm thankful to be here with you folks, and I've been engaged in the question of climate and economic and social paradigm shifts for quite a while, number of decades, and I think that should do it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. I know it's getting quite late. Thank you. Let me start with the first question. Let me quote from the late Benjamin Barber. He was an American political theorist and author. He wrote in his 2013 book published by Yale University Press, "If mayors rule the world, dysfunctional nations, rising cities," about the efficacies of cities versus national governments in solving problems. He argued that in the era of globalization, nation states have failed to deal with challenges including climate change, environmental pollution, and refugee issues that transcend national boundaries. He points out that nations, once democracies beacon, are becoming dysfunctional. Instead, we should shift our focus from nation states to cities, from independence to interdependence, and from ideology to problem solving. I'm going to ask the three who are sitting here next to me, and I have a more difficult question for President Rifkin, so hold on. I'm going to ask the three gentlemen sitting next to me. Do you agree with Dr. Barber's argument that cities and city governments can better address global challenges such as the pandemic and climate change than nations and central governments? Mr. Chung.
Yes, thank you, President Kim. Yes, and I thought the first question was going to be much of an icebreaker. I think this question itself is hard to tackle, number one. Yes, it isn't, I believe it isn't difficult to agree that the roles of cities as a unit, that the roles will be significantly, I guess, greater or more important. I'm not here to compare which role is more significant, the national government or the city government, but yes, I have no doubt the roles of city governments or the city itself will impact much more in the future, especially due to technologies, the advancement of technologies such as AI, massive data, semiconductors, the social media, and whatnot, has, I believe, led citizens and furthermore the city to become more delicate, sensitive, more individualized. And in that manner, I guess that kind of led to more specific needs and demands and requirements that to satisfy or even sustain, maintain the citizen of the city itself. And I would like to say Hyundai Motor Group is well aware of those specific needs and are thriving to learn more about the needs of a city and the citizens itself. And that's why we're closely cooperating with the city governments all across the world, trying to learn. And I guess that's one of the reasons why we were invited to this very important and significant forum today as well.
Okay. Vice President Choi, cities or nation states?
I'm not an expert in that subject, but
But in your experience,
yeah, my answer is something like this. I think the role of a city still in the future still very important. However, just we experience a pandemic, and the conclusion, from my point of view, conclusion, decentralization is also important. So each city or the small town should have their own autonomy. By the way, the city role, they should make some infra and policy. We experience pandemic. At least the country should provide the basic policy of the pandemic. So that mutual side of role is important.
okay.
Can be answer?
Okay, so he's being safe and saying that they're both important. Okay, okay. Commissioner Kim, what is your answer?
네, 우리
National government or city government?
네. 이제 팬데믹과 관련해서 우리가 지난 그 경험을 반추해 볼 때 우리 중앙 정부와 또 시 정부에서 우리가 그 일체적으로 유기적으로 협력을 해서 잘 대처해 왔다라고 하는 것이 한국 정부의 그 대처 방안으로서 세계적으로 이렇게 평가받는다고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 인천 경제 자유구역에서도 이게 스마트 시티를 구축하게 가면서 개인의 정보를 많이 집적을 하고 이것을 활용할 수가 있고 또 결국은 팬데믹과 같은 상황에서는 이것을 활용한 정부의 그 어떤 통제, 컨트롤 이 능력을 갖고 있다는 장점이 있는데 또한 그 반면에는 개인의 권리와 프라이버시라고 하는 것이 그 상대적인 그런 가치로 이렇게 작용을 하고 있다고 보여집니다. 그렇다라고 할 때에 우리가 좀 중국과 이렇게 비교해 보면은 중국에서는 정부의 그 컨트롤 능력이 크고 상대적으로 그 인민의 이런 그 권리와 프라이버시가 무시되는 그런 측면이 강했다면 또 유럽과 서양 사회에서는 이제 그 반대의 역할도 많이 나타났다라고 평가를 할 수가 있습니다. 그 중간 영역에서 한국 정부가 이것을 어떤 정부의 그 신뢰를 바탕으로 해서 잘 대처해 왔다라고 생각하고 있는데 우리 제레미 리프군 박사께서는 어떻게 좀 이런 부분에 대해서 평가를 하고 또 앞으로 세계가 이러한 상황에 닥쳤을 때 어떻게 대처해 나가는 하나의 그 지침 방향에 대해서 어떻게 생각하고 계신지 한번 좀 묻고 싶습니다.
청장님이 보시기에는 중앙 정부하고 이제 지자체 간에 그러니까 팬데믹을 이제 겪고 나오시면서 어디가 더 중요한 역할을 할 수 있고 앞으로 이 균형점을 어디서 봐야 된다고 생각하세요?
앞으로는 이제 중앙 정부와 이제 지방 정부가 특히 이제 어떤 미국과 같은 사회에서는 조금 더 생각과 다를 수가 있지만은
네.
우리가 그 한국에 있어서는 서로 굉장히 유기적으로 연계가 되어 있다. 그래서 어디가 더 중요하냐라고 할 때에 흔히들 도시가 이제 능동적으로 대처해 나가야 된다라고들 이렇게 말을 하지만은 한국과 같은 상황에서 이렇게 봤을 때 이제 도시와 도시 간에도 긴밀하게 연결이 돼 있고 이게 수도권만 해도 2,600만 도시가 살고 있습니다. 이런 것을 할 때는 도시 정부라고 하는 차원에서 보다도 이거와 국가 중앙 정부와 국가가 유기적으로 이렇게 대처해 나가는 것 이것이 더 좋은 방안이 아니냐 이렇게 생각을 합니다.
For the interest of President Rifkin, let me just briefly translate what just transpired here. I think Commissioner Kim was saying that in the Korean context, it was very critical for the central government, the national government, and the city governments to work very closely in a very organic way to cooperate in the past pandemic. And he argues that it's critical as we move forward to prepare for the next pandemic to find ways to facilitate and develop a close, a cooperative, organic way to develop this working relationship. Now, I have a question that is slightly different for you because it's you. You're one of the most influential political thinkers, public speakers, and activists of our time. Your work spans over 6 decades and have really questioned the humanity to address the triple and now multiple challenges of the global economic crisis, energy security, climate change, and now the pandemic. Your 2011 book, The Third Industrial Revolution, How Lateral Power is Transforming Energy, the Economy, and the World, was not only a world bestseller, but it has influenced many, many governments around the world, including the Republic of Korea, to adopt a green growth policy. On May 10th, 2012, you delivered a very powerful keynote address in this country at the Global Green Growth Summit hosted by the Global Green Growth Institute, or GGGI, in association with OECD and the United Nations Environment Program. And your most recent books include The Green New Deal, Why the Fossil Fuel Civilization Will Collapse by 2028, that's pretty close, and The Bold Economic Plan to Save Life on Earth, which was published in 2019. And in 2022, you published The Age of Resilience, Reimagining Existence on a Rewilding Earth. In these books, you critically challenge us once again to think about the physical boundaries of human, social, urban space versus nature and the environment for sustainability, which you just talked about during your keynote speech. So the question is, while cities have been catalysts for economic growth and social development, some would argue, and I think you do that to a certain extent, that urbanization have caused and contributed significantly to the pandemic and climate change. What are your insights on the role of cities for the pandemic and climate change, and how would we go about to resurrect or creating healthier and more sustainable cities as we move forward?
In 1776, at the dawn of the American Revolution, beginning of the Age of Progress, there were 780 million human beings inhabiting this planet. 780 million. Today, it's 8 billion. What has driven this? Fossil fuels. In other words, we lived off the solar and of the planet for all of history until we discovered stored energy, coal, oil, and gas, from a previous period of history. So we went from 780 million to 8 billion people. And now the average person, as I said before, has half the amount of water available than the average person had 50 years ago. That's the situation. Here's an interesting statistic. For every 1 degree, well, let me just move forward on this for one more moment. For every 1 degree Celsius that the temperature goes up on this planet, It means 1 billion more people are climate refugees. That's what's happening. So now we've got 1 billion, we're heading toward 1 billion. We're now near 1.5 degrees. If we go to 2 degrees, 2 billion. If we go to 3 degrees, 3 billion. That's nearly half the planet. And now the new studies say that at the current course, we're going to go to 4 degrees Celsius. That upwards of 4 billion people who may be potentially climate migrants. We have whole regions now that are warming so fast, the mass migrations here, the Mediterranean, 22 nations, European, Asian, African, all on the Mediterranean ecosystem. And we're seeing the migration because they can't live in these regions anymore. And they're doing whatever they can to get over that Mediterranean Sea to Europe. We're seeing it in Central America and South America, millions of migrants because the climate is too severe. They're moving up north toward the US and Canada. We're beginning to see this around the world. So what I believe is going to happen is we're now know that population is going to peak somewhere around mid-century everywhere. We now have most of the developed countries are already declining in population, but the peak is around 2050. And I would say in the next 150 years, that's not a very long time. My dad was born 125 years ago. That's not many generations. I think our population is going to go down because of climate and because of migration. And I think we will probably see somewhere, 200 years from now, perhaps, if we're able to flourish, smaller populations, maybe 2 or 3 billion people. Young people aren't having as many children. We're also going to see changes because we're going to have more migratory life, nomadic life. The last 10,000 years, nice climate, no more nomadic life, settled down, sedentary life, hydraulic civilization, big urban cities, the industrial age. The next period is going to be more migratory life, less sedentary life. We're going to see pop-up cities, ephemeral cities, climate passports, climate corridors. We're hiding from it now, but it's already here. So what I'm trying to do is, in my work with governments around the world, is to say, look, in industries, we've got to see a wholesale change in how we live, where we live, and under what circumstances. So I would say we're going to have smaller regional cities, not of 8, 10, and 20 million, but cities of 250, 500,000 people who can actually adapt to their local ecosystem over the next 200 years and see it as a commons that cannot be depleted. For too long, we have seen nature as a resource to be sequestered, propertized, commodified, consumed, and thrown away. So we depleted whole ecosystems. Now we have to move towards smaller cities that are comfortable to maintaining their local ecosystems as commons. And for much of history, we did that. That doesn't mean going back. We have to use the most advanced, what we call complex adaptive system thinking, the new approaches to big data analytics and algorithms. But we also have to be aware that our primary mission is to rewild 1/3 of the planet. That's what the UN has said. That's what our nations have committed to. That's a big deal to do that. So that means that I think as population declines, because young people are going to have fewer babies, and with migration, fewer babies. You can't take 3 children on your back when you're migrating. The good part of this is we're going to probably create a more ability to live in bioregional governments with common ecosystems, and it's going to bring people together. This doesn't have to be a death sentence for our species. This can be what we call a good quality of life, a Spartan but good quality of life, where other things are more important than just getting rich. Half the human race has not done well with the age of progress. They're worse off than when we began. The other half of the human race, most of us in the West, are doing really well. We now have to have a completely different way of understanding our relationship to our ecosystems. You can't have 20 million people devouring some small ecosystem that they rely on, the waters, the lithosphere, the atmosphere. So none of this has to be forced. It's forcing on us because of the hydrosphere is changing. So I think that over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 generations, Korea has shown itself to be a leader. Here's a country, and after World War II, went from total poverty. You've had so many times where you've been occupied, you've been repressed, but you came back and you became a great star and hope for the world. And I think Korea could do that again. There are other countries that might. And I would leave with this last thought on this idea. How does this happen in the real world? My global team has done roadmaps. They're the only ones that have actually done these infrastructure deployments. And here's what we learned. I'll give you one example. There are many regions. Some of you are familiar with the industrial region of France, Haute-de-France. It's the major industrial region of France, the Rust Belt. So years ago, the premier of the region said, well, will you do a roadmap for us? And I said, absolutely not. It's a waste of your time and my time, because some minister will have a pilot project and that'll be the end of it. You with me? So what I said is, if you, however, want to go back to the entire region that you are the governor and go to the chambers of commerce, every local mayor, all the universities, all the civil society organizations, and get all of them together, we'll work with you, but you will make the transition to the kind of society that can steward your ecosystem. So usually they don't come back. It's too much work. This particular premier came back. We began a process that involved thousands and thousands and thousands of people developing a roadmap on how this industrial Rust Belt could rejuvenate its local ecosystem. The universities put together missions, the school systems, everyone. And so over 10 years of deployment, we were there to help, but they did it. And what this says is that every region can do this. You need your national government. They have to set up the policies, the guidelines, the general principle directions, the codes, the standards, and then they have to let the local regions come together on their ecosystems and bring thousands and thousands of people together over a period of 10, 20 years. And then you will find a huge amount of what I would say esprit de corps between the central government and the bioregional governments. When there's climate events, everyone has to come out. I mean, if you have a flood or a drought or a wildfire, the entire community comes out. Now it has to be institutionalized. So you prepare, you rescue, you restore, you create resilience. So I guess the long and short of this is the human race is capable. We're very adaptive. If Haute-de-France and other regions have done this by actually coming together, I'm sure that Korea can be first in show. I'm sure. But your national government has to set the tone, has to set the framework, has to encourage the roadmap, has to set the guidelines. Let the local regions and the local governments steward their ecosystems.
Well, thank you very much. I think our forum where we put the city center may set the stage for a more resilient city, a healthier city, and may allow us to go in that direction. Let's see how we can do that. I'm going to invite the business representatives for the next question. We're going to focus on health. The term health not only encompasses an individual's physical and mental well-being, but implies also holistic well-being to maintain a high quality of life concerning the environment, culture, social prosperity, and balanced ecology. In creating and sustaining the value of well-being, the role of the private sector and business seems to be expanding and gaining more significance than of the government and public sector. In the situation where the safety and well-being of individuals and cities are threatened by disruptions in the global supply chains and lockdowns due to the pandemic, the importance of lifeline services, including electricity, water, communication, transportation, so home services become even more important. Here with us today are the representatives from LG and Hyundai. I would like to invite you to address this issue from these two very important corporations representing South Korea's best. May I invite Mr. Chung first.
Yes, thank you. Allow me to begin my reply with a brief introductory slide of some of Hyundai Motor Group's smart city solutions. Hyundai Motor Group, or Hyundai Motor Company, as its main company, with 50 plus affiliate companies, all gathering its efforts to pursue Hyundai Motor Group's smart city vision. We initially, or our main core of business being a manufacturer of automobiles, and also a smart mobility solution provider. Among the many smart city domains, health, education, security, government, we tend to focus more on the three core domains, which are transportation and logistics combined. We call it mobility and also energy. Yes, and I am very well aware that health isn't one of the key focuses that I have just mentioned, but the three main principles or ideals or goals that Hyundai Motor Group's smart city vision pursue are number one, human-centered, number two, coexisting with nature, and number three, embracing the future. And what are these three without health? Especially the first one being human-centered. We believe that health underlies in the three core domains that Hyundai Motor Group, as a automobile manufacturer and a smart mobility solution provider, focuses on. To begin with transportation or movement of people, yes, aside of the commonly known autonomous driving vehicles or advanced area mobility, Hyundai Motor Group also makes efforts in testing or even planning or developing mobility solutions for the transportation disabled people, such as the blind people who have difficulties using transportation, even beginning from getting out of their house, even wheelchair accessible vehicles and whatnot. And also we are at work developing PBVs, purpose-built vehicles, to satisfy the different needs that I've been talking about in the first question, to satisfy the detailed and very delicate specific needs of people getting around in the city. And also coming back to the most popular and I guess the common topic, autonomous vehicles as well. Smart City also, not only developing the vehicles itself, we tend to study the infrastructure along with the government entities in academia as well. We, I guess, imagine or look into how the city sculpture, the city scene, or the city infrastructure will change along with the introduction of self-driving vehicles. For example, if cars drive themselves, would the lanes of the roads be able to become, I guess, narrower because more accurate driving? Will we have more parking spaces? Will we have, due to the introduction or the fully electrified vehicles, will we need gas stations where they are now? Does the curb next to the sidewalk, does it have to be lower or higher for people to access vehicles without an actual driver or even someone to help them get on a car? And also, how will this impact the statistics of the city? Whereas there are some assumptions, or assumptions where autonomous vehicles may lead to a decrease in traffic, especially in heavily trafficked cities such as San Francisco, New York, Seoul, due to autonomous vehicles being able to absorb nearby types or modals of different transportation modes. And also, mobility goes on to the movement of goods, logistics as well. We, of course, with technologies in areas such as logistics, warehouse solutions, robotics and whatnot, we also are working hard to bring a more seamless movement of goods, logistics solutions. Moving on to the third domain, which is energy. Aside of the commonly known hydrogen vehicles and electric vehicles that you already know and enjoy. We also have eco-friendly trucks or buses to pursue and continue to pursue the eco-friendly goals and our carbon neutral goals of Hyundai Motor Group's vision. Not only in our vehicles, but Hyundai Motor Group also are conducting numerous studies with academia and government entities as well as national level institutions for even solutions across the whole value chain, from producing clean hydrogen to storing them, transporting them, and even fueling them into our vehicles or even other facilities as well. This does not stop and goes on to us, Hyundai Motor Group, having to develop more advanced electric vehicle charging solutions as well. And these are the collective efforts that Hyundai Motor Group are mainly focused in. Like I've said, the three domains being transportation, logistics, and energy. But I would like to end my reply with, we have a long way to go. And if I may refer to Dr. Rifkin's keynote speech saying people being a cooperative species. Number one, the future solutions that I have briefly introduced, well, we can't do this alone, of course. And number two being, these are only the three domains within a vast collection of domains that kind of sum up smart cities or even health cities. So we have a long way to go, and we would like to, I guess, pursue that journey with the academia and government entities as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, may I turn to President Choi of LG Electronics, which is a global home service company ranging from appliances to lifestyle services. So, Vice President Choi, your LG's plans about smart and healthy cities, please.
I prepared introduction video. Could you play on?
Hey there! You probably know LG for our world best appliances. And you're right. For decades, our uniquely innovative products have been changing your home life. But did you know? We're already going well beyond that to bring all our innovations together to open up new possibilities and change the home itself. Let me show you how. Like all good things, the idea is quite simple. It's all about unlocking the power of connectedness by integrating all those AI-empowered, IoT-enabled appliances with your home, so they can all work together intelligently to do so much more for you. Set routine to automate multiple operations in one go. Like when you're coming home after a long day and you want everything set to just how you like it. Connect up your AC units and air purifiers with air quality sensors around your house, and even weather feeds from the cloud. When you next need to freshen up, your home will know exactly what to do. Even taking care of all these connected appliances is made trouble-free with our proactive customer care that helps you get the most out of your products. From personalized tips and maintenance reminders to alerts that prevent problems in advance, Smart is all about staying ahead. Of course, getting all this to work is effortless thanks to simple and intuitive control with our LG ThinQ app, a smart platform for smart lifestyle, which gives you full control and insight over every aspect of your smart home, wherever you are. And with LG ThinQ, control is a truly interactive process of personalization, with its evolving intelligence learning about you and your living pattern, so your home adapts to your lifestyle not the other way around. Because optimization, at the end of the day, should always be about you.
Begin by producing your own electricity. Store your electricity in home ESS until peak hours. Convert it to heating or air conditioning. Plug it back into the main grid, or better yet, just leave it all to LG ThinQ Home and its predictive intelligence to work out the optimal combination. And we're talking real intelligence here, even when the going gets a little tough, like when the main grid goes down. Simply let LG ThinQ Home do its magic with its AI-powered optimization. And fine-tune your energy consumption. And voila! Saving energy is literally a breeze. Of course, from AC and TV to pool pumps and even electric vehicles, it shouldn't matter if it's from LG or one of our growing network of partners, because you should be free to choose whatever suits you best. Our job is simply to make sure your home runs the most efficient, most economic, and most sustainable power recipe at all times, come what may. So you're right, LG ThinQ Home is one smart home solution, probably the best you'll get. But at the same time, it's so much more than that. It's about a new and different way of living, enabled by the latest in AI and connectivity, taking care not just of yourself and your family, but also of the whole community, the planet Earth, and our shared future. 'Cause, you know, when we say innovation for a better life, we mean better for everyone and in every way. And that's LG ThinQ Home, a truly smart home for a truly better life.
LG Electronics doing smart home business. We think about the smart home, the three aspects. The first one, it is the convenient, and the second one is the healthcare, and the third one is energy saving. So today I want to just introduce LG digital healthcare first. We are doing digital healthcare business, focusing on the two stage, the before going to hospital and after the coming from hospital, two stages. That stage happened in home, probably. So before going to hospital, it can be prevention, and after the coming from a hospital can be aftercare service. So nowadays we just developing at-home care service. It's the naming service of a name. So we just provide the many different kind of data from a hospital to our customer as a patient, and we can gather the vital data from the patient and hand over to hospital. At that time, not only just vital data, but the environmental data as well, such as temperature, humidity, that kind of data of home. Also, we can just transfer to a hospital. And that the vital data and the environmental data can be a lifelog data, and that can be just utilized for any kind of the research of healthcare the sectors. So that is the business area, and we are doing smart city business as well in the overseas. Firstly in Korea. We are doing with our just affiliate company, system integrator LG CNS together. We are doing smart Sejong City project and Busan Eco Delta City project as well. In overseas, we are doing Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and Vietnam as well. So our just focus on smart city, it is the convenience and digital healthcare and energy, three aspects. And as you know, just LG stands for Life's Good, right? So our just world health smart health city linked to our the brand image. Life's good.
Thank you. We started a little late, so I don't think we have that much time. So I am very sorry, but I'm going to ask Commissioner Kim to be very brief in the remarks. Songdo Smart City has been very important, actively involved in the development of Songdo as an international city. Your leadership has been very important. So could you share your insights how you have built Incheon Songdo as a global international city? Your leadership, I think, will be very important to share so that other cities can benchmark as a safe, healthy, and sustainable city. 인천 송도 도시를 이렇게 개발하는데 굉장히 중요한 역할을 하셨기 때문에 다른 도시들이 오늘 이제 좀 오셔서 벤치마킹 하시는데 아마 성자님 말씀을 듣는 게 굉장히 중요할 것 같은데 시간이 많지 않아가지고 아주 에센스만, 엑기스만 쫙 뽑아서 해주시면 더욱 감사하겠습니다.
Okay, as I told you, our city was, so IFES was reclaimed in this area from the mud flat. And then, so with the 123 square kilometers. And then without any obstacle to construct our city, we were able to proceed with our project. The aims of our smart city is safety and efficiency and convenience. We initiated the project with as a ubiquitous city. Ubiquitous as God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. The ubiquitous means that we are able to, where something happens, what is happening. And so we can, construct this city, we were able to collect a lot of information, and then we can share that information with the community, and then we can provide that information to the police, and then the agency, or the health agency. Our city, smart cities, makes I think this makes contribute to our city, it's a sustainable city, and also with the smart city we have made our city global bio cluster, and so with those the achievement, so we can provide and also contribute to the development of our city as a sustainable city. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let me now ask all the panelists the final question. In the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, the world washed in great disparity that the international organizations were not able to address the global pandemic. The UN, WHO, and many other international organizations seemed unprepared to deal with the magnitude of the pandemic. In the past pandemics, the global north and international organizations appear to be more ready to help, in particular the global south. But this time, the pandemic hit almost all the countries all at once. Countries in the global north were hit as well. So they appeared not to be ready to help the global south in the early days. International organizations were not prepared. WHO was paralyzed in the early days, unfortunately. They did come back and were able to be an important player. let me put the question to the panelists. As we know, as Dr. Rifkin said during his keynote, we know that the next pandemic is coming. We know that it's going to be different, but we know it's coming. It may be much bigger in magnitude. It's going to come quicker than the distance between this one and the last pandemic. In this forum, we're talking about cooperation among people, cooperation among cities. Do we still need international organizations, international governance to play a major role? Or are we going to see another way of governance among cities? Do we need to invent a new system? Yes or no? And why is your answer? Let me start with Dr. Rifkin first.
Well, this is pretty interesting final question because it gets to the heart of our economic system. What went wrong here? So the pandemic struck, and all of a sudden, all over the world, people were saying, where are the ventilators? Where's the medicine? Where's the food? Where are the masks? And what we learned from this is that the way our economic system operates was the problem. And the fact is that in our corporate world, and I spend my time in the corporate world, we always believe you have to be lean. Because if you're lean, you can bring more revenue back to your investors every quarter. So we don't want to have too much redundancy in our companies. We don't want to have too big of a redundant workforce because we can't send enough revenue back to the investors. We don't want to have backup logistics supply chains because that redundancy means we can't get more revenue back to the investors. We can't have logistics chains that are convertible. So what happened is that the nature of the system is you got to show that revenue every quarter. Now in nature, it works totally different. Nature is always about redundancy, not about anything else. So in nature, you have a lot of redundancy built into the ecosystem. So if there is some kind of a crisis, there is enough redundancy in that ecosystem to be resilient, which means to adapt. So the lesson we're learning here is that we've got to kind of turn this around and be able to build in a much more diverse logistics and supply chain. We have to have a labor force that can adapt in a moment's notice to crisis. We have to have more localization along with globalization. We're going to have more regional ability to do things. It doesn't mean that we're going to just do onshoring. We're still going to have a global world, but we're going to have to change our economic system. For one thing, quarterly statements are a killer. I work with businesses all over the world. Every quarter, that CEO has to show more revenue to the investors, even if they know they're hollowing out their company and it's becoming so lean they can't adjust to changing economic conditions. Maybe they should get rid of the quarterly statement. And I know a lot of CEOs I work with in Fortune 500 companies say right on, because they have to build an infrastructure and a system that's redundant, that allows them to have a lot of options in case there's a crisis. And that requires a rethinking of how we work on markets and what our investors should expect from companies. I think that's a big question you asked. And in the Age of Resilience, I deal with that quite a bit in the book. And I think it's going to be difficult for some investors to hear that, but for the global companies I work with, they understand what I'm talking about.
Thank you very much. Now let me go in the different order. Commissioner Kim.
Our society. Our society. One of the characteristics of our society is the connectedness, which means that interrelation, interaction, and interdependence are very should be considered important. So not as between the is geographical space, but also the institutions and some entities are very important to connect and interact and is interdependent. How to deal with some coming danger and crisis, and then that is depends on how to preparedness and also our collaboration ability. Yeah.
Vice President Choi?
It is very difficult question for me, and I can say that it is not my company's opinion. It is my personal opinion, and back to the first stage of COVID-19. It was January 2020. At that time, I think information sharing was very important. The Chinese government, I'm not sure, they just didn't open the whole information to other countries. So information sharing is very important at that time. So somewhat the global organization should have some roles to resolve this kind of issue.
Mr. Chung?
Yes, to begin with answering the question directly, I do believe there will be, or we do need, a different kind of governance or structure or system among cities in the future, especially given the experience that Hyundai Motor Group has in its attempt to implement and deploy its future mobility solutions and energy solutions globally, and also trying to learn from the citizens in different cities around the world. We have learned that cooperation between cities is, I can't emphasize this enough, is very crucial due to two very opposite reasons. One being cities are very different from each other, and number two being cities are very similar to each other. For example, a lot of cities in similar regions share the same climate, the temperature, form of government, or have same needs in terms of infrastructure or even fighting poverty or whatnot. And at the same time, all cities share the common, other cities in different regions have different climates, different needs, different requirements and whatnot. And at the same time, all cities need basic mobility infrastructure and whatnot. And so, again, emphasizing the cooperation and communication between cities will, I guess, inevitably become more significant in the future. And I believe that companies such as ourselves and the academia has to play their part in kind of pushing through the communications and making that happen between cities, of course, along with the cooperation with the government as well.
I want to thank all the panelists. I would like to end with one thought. I hope we don't forget those who have not yet recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic. I am reminded of the young children who live in our urban slums, who live in disadvantaged surroundings, and in particular in the Global South, because they could not go to schools. They lost their education, they lost their school meals, which meant that they lost their nutrition and have gone into stunting, which is a permanent loss in their lives. So the COVID-19 pandemic may be over for most of us living in the global north and in many parts of the world, but it's still an ongoing problem. So I hope we do not forget that. But I go back to what President Rifkin said about the blue planet that the astronauts saw from the moon. Blue symbolizes hope. So I hope, in spite of the pandemic, in spite of the difficulties and challenges that we have talked about today, the blue planet hopefully will give us hope in the future. Thank you very much, the audience and the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that informative and interesting discussion. I think our AGB Summit panelists deserve another huge round of applause.